Good morning. It's a special day to be able to bring singing back into the sanctuary, and we're going to do a few giving voice to the Spirit songs, and everybody who's joining us virtually can sing their hearts out, and those of you here in the room, you're welcome to sing softly with your masks on. Give light, and the people will find a way. Give light, and the people will find a way. Give light, and the people will find a way. The people will find a way, I do believe. Teach peace, and the people will find a way. Teach peace, and the people will find a way. Teach peace, and the people will find a way. The people will find a way, I do believe. Give hope, and the people will find a way. Give hope, and the people will find a way. Give hope, and the people will find a way. The people will find a way, I do believe. Give hope, and the people will find a way. Give hope, and the people will find a way. Give hope, and the people will find a way. The people will find a way, I do believe. Give light, and the people will find a way. Give light, and the people will find a way. Give light, and the people will find a way. The people will find a way, I do believe. For this next one, follow me from one verse to the next. I'm going to raise the pitch a little bit, so give a listen. Up above my head, I hear music in the air. Up above my head, I hear music in the air. Up above my head, I hear music in the air. I really do believe there's joy somewhere. Up above my head, there's trouble everywhere. Up above my head, there's trouble in the air. Up above my head, there's trouble everywhere. I really do believe there's joy somewhere. Up above my head, I hear sorrow in the air. Up above my head, I hear sorrow in the air. Up above my head, I hear sorrow in the air. I really do believe there's joy somewhere. Up above my head, I hear singing in the air. Up above my head, I hear singing in the air. Up above my head, I hear singing in the air. I really do believe there's joy somewhere. And we're going to do one more that comes from the African American spiritual tradition, and we're honored to have the gift of this song to sing today. Sun don't set in the morning, sun don't set in the morning, Lord. Sun don't set in the morning, 'cause light shines over the world. Yes, light shines over the world. Oh, pray on, keep a praying sister, pray on, keep a praying brother, pray on, keep a praying sister. Light shines over the world. Yes, light shines over the world. Rain don't fall from a blue sky. Rain don't fall from a clear blue sky. Rain don't fall from a blue sky, 'cause light shines over the world. Yes, light shines over the world. So pray on, keep a praying, sister, pray on. Keep a praying, brother, pray on. Keep a praying, sister, light shines over the world. Yes, light shines over the world. Water don't rise when the stars glow. Water don't rise when the stars glow bright. Water don't rise when the stars glow, 'cause light shines over the world. Yes, light shines over the world. Oh, pray on, keep a praying, sister, pray on. Keep a praying, brother, pray on. Keep a praying, sister, light shines over the world. Yes, light shines over the world.
Good morning, and welcome to White Bear Unitarian Universalist Church. We are delighted to have you here, both here in this space and those attending virtually. It's good to be together. It's good to be singing. A community of youth, adults, and children sharing the values of courage, reverence, and compassion. I am Jillian Lampert. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a member of our board of directors. Every Sunday, our ministry team will be running a brief social hour beginning 5 minutes after the postlude. You can join in person or via Zoom. It's a 20-minute session of conversation and sharing designed to provide a deep and intentional welcome to all. If you prefer an informal time of mingling on site, please feel free to do so in the Emerson alcove. If you have a request for today's meditation, please place it in the prayer bowl over on the side or in the Zoom chat box. If you're new today, please fill out a guest card. You can find one at the Welcome Center right outside the doors or in the chat box on Zoom. And please be sure, all of you, to be signed up to be part of the e-news mailing list, where you'll learn everything about what's happening here at WBUUC. Our holiday services are this week. Please know that we are requiring registration for Christmas Eve. So if you're planning on attending in person, please find the link in the e-news and on the website to register for holiday services now. Our new technology allows us to show a wider view of the sanctuary to our online viewers. If you do not want to be in the live stream or in the archive recordings on YouTube, you may sit in the west section of the sanctuary or in the balcony. Besides myself, service participants today include Mina Harta, Reverend Sarah, Dick Ottman, Reverend Jack, Nico Van Ostrand, and Reverend Mary Catherine Morn. Behind the scenes support today is from Aaron Scott and Amy Peterson-Derrick. Music is from Jody McCormick, Margot Berg, and Carla Colahan. Welcome to our church. Together we grow our souls and serve the world in love.
Come in. Come into this place which we make holy by our presence. Come in with all your vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes. For here you need not hide, nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where we can touch and be touched, heal and be healed, forgive and be forgiven. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, the compassionate is expected. Come into this place. Together we make it a holy place. Mina will lead us in our chalice lighting.
Good morning. The last of the boxes were packed up and the lights turned off from our White Bear Lake apartment this week, and the nesting could begin in earnest in our new home in Stillwater. The week went by with comments such as, "Do you know where my socks are?" And "Which box has the cooking utensils?" Living out of boxes can be maddening and tiring. But as I stood at the kitchen window the day before the snowstorm, I noticed that there were 4 gray squirrels in the crabapple tree. It was loaded with fruit, and these rotund rodents were doing their best to harvest crab apples from every branch. They hung upside down, they swirled in the wind, they jumped and dangled, exposing their chubby tummies to me as I admired their acrobatics. I called to Deborah and invited her to join me in the delight of watching squirrels. We stood there mesmerized for quite a while, until they, in unison, ran down from the tree back to the safety of much taller trees. Thank the universe for squirrels and their ability to pull me out of my moving funk, slow me down, and help me reconnect with nature, to delight in their ability to move through trees with grace and strength. Thank the tree for coexisting with the woodland creatures and for bringing humor and a moment of breath to just be. Blessed be.
Please join in our opening words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now, please join in our opening hymn. You may rise in body or spirit. We are, as you have already been doing, inviting you to sing very quietly in your Mass today. It is a blessing to be able to do this. And Margot will lead us in Green by Peter Mayer. So rise in body or spirit.
When winter's gray is on the sky, rest upon the leaves that lie, red on the last few berries clinging, brown on the branch where the bitter wind's singing, even when white obscures the scene, still in winter there is green. So keep it in your winter store, hang its garland round the door, grant to your heart its hopeful promise, fashion a wreath for the blessing upon us. Winter brings brooms and grays indeed. When it comes, remember green.
For this morning's story, I need a little help. Whenever you hear the words life itself, snap or tap a finger on your hand. Let's give it a try. This morning's story is Life Itself by Kristen Mayer in her book, A Good Telling. Long ago, the land of the north was filled with wise old trees. The trees were mighty and tall, and their wide leaves stayed green all year long. Every morning, life itself, a fiery orb, rose into the sky. Life itself smiled upon the trees, giving them warmth and light. The trees smiled upon the humans, giving them wood and fruit, and the humans smiled on each other, giving what they had. But one day, life itself was called to the lands of the south, for it was needed there. Before it left, it spoke, "Do not fret. My friend darkness will watch over you while I am gone. Remember this promise. Life itself returns. Life itself always returns." With that, life itself turned and moved for the south. Darkness moved in, just as it had promised. Though the air grew colder, the humans did not worry, at least not at first. One being living among the humans was fear. Fear had always been present, quiet, softly whispering, "Be careful of the fire. Keep your children close." Now that life itself moved farther south and darkness was watching over the humans more often, fear began to speak more plainly. Beware of your neighbor. And the humans began to listen and worry. "Where is life itself?" they cried. "Why did it leave us alone?" And the trees, seeing their worry, called out, "Remember the promise. Life itself returns. Life itself always returns." The trees saw that the humans were afraid, so they called out to darkness. As darkness moved in among them, their leaves turned to yellow, orange, and red. Surrounded by color, the humans forgot their worries and smiled on one another again. Fear, however, continued to speak. "It's getting colder. Will there be enough firewood? Surely you will freeze while your neighbors stay warm and toasty." The humans began to worry again. They began to cut down branch after branch and even whole trees. "Wait," said the trees. "You need only ask, and we will cover you." The trees called to darkness again. The darkness moved among their branches, their leaves began to fall, and a warm blanket of yellow, orange, and red covered the ground as far as they could see. The trees spoke, "Remember the promise. Life itself returns. Life itself always returns." And the humans, toasty and warm, smiled upon one another once again. Fear, however, continued to speak louder and louder. "There is not enough fruit for everyone. Take what your family needs before others do." And soon human began to fear human. They started to fight over the fruit, taking more than they needed, more than they even wanted, until others had none. The trees looked down upon the chaos and hatred. They did not smile. They could only weep. Big, wet tears rolled down their bare branches. In the cold air of darkness, those tears froze into tiny needles of ice. Thousands of little icicles rang out into the wind of darkness, filling the cold air with sound. Far away, life itself heard the soft ringing of icicles in the breeze and knew that the trees had been weeping. So life itself returned north and reached out. Warmth and love filled those trees, melting the thousands of icicles and leaving in their place lush green needles of life. The humans stretched out their hands, and as they touched the green needles, they remembered the promise. Life itself returns. Life itself always returns. Once again, life itself smiled upon the trees, giving them warmth and light. The trees smiled upon the humans, giving them wood and fruit, and the humans smiled upon each other, sharing what they had and rejoicing in the return of life itself. As time passed, life itself would be called again and again and again to watch over the south. But this time, darkness would be greeted as an old friend. For the humans learned to find the light even in the darkest of days. And fear was kept as a whisper, as it should be.
Join me in a time of meditation and prayer. Find a comfortable place for your body. Take several deep breaths. As we enter this, the busiest time of year for many of us, we may find that we need to practice going slowly. In that spirit, let's share 2 minutes of silence. During the silence, focus your mind on the present as much as you are able. Slowly, and when you are ready, come back into your room, into this space you're in, gently opening your eyes if you had them closed. We are a community in several places. We have about 61 families viewing online and about 50 people in the room today. We hold in our hearts this morning members and friends of the congregation, several of whom are COVID positive today. We hold my sister-in-law's family who all have COVID. For my friend's grandfather who is ill, may he recover quickly. And we hold particularly Jeff Janisek. He's scheduled for a cath echo on Thursday, and if that looks okay, he'll get a new aortic valve on the 28th. Let's hold him particularly in love. And now I ask you to speak aloud into this silence and out of it those names that are on your heart so that we may hold them all together. There's room in our hearts for all. For those named and unnamed, we pray. Amen. Today's offering will support the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee through its annual Guest at Your Table collection. And to tell us more about it today is our beloved Dick Ottman coming up to speak. And then also UUSC President and CEO, Reverend Mary Catherine Morin, will be with us on video.
Good morning. In 1940, a group of Unitarians noticed very serious human rights violations going on in Nazi-controlled Europe. And they decided to do something about it. And so they raised some money, and they sent a minister who volunteered and his wife to Europe, and they literally smuggled children and adults, whatever they could get out of Nazi-controlled Europe. And the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee was born. Over 40 years ago in this congregation, my wife, Judy Ottman, who's sitting in the front row, decided that we should establish a tradition of doing a collection around Christmas for the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC. And that tradition has evolved into doing a collection on the Sunday before as well as Christmas Eve. And that money will then go to the UUSC and their programs. Now, my wife, as you can see, Judy Ottman, is not well. She will no longer be giving those announcements. That's why I'm up here talking instead of her. And in honor of my wife, this year, our family, the Ottman family, has decided to match every dollar that will be given to the UUSC from this congregation in the entire month of December with no limit. We will match it all. In addition, a foundation will match all contributions of $150 or more. So for example, if you write a check for $250, what happens is we'll match it, the $250, the foundation will throw in a $500, matching both our contribution and yours. So it'll be 4 times, and that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Write the check to WBUUC with UUSC in the memo line. And you're going to ask that next question you're going to ask is, what is the UUSC doing now? We don't have Nazi-controlled Europe anymore. And to answer that question, we have the Reverend Mary Catherine Morin, President and CEO of UUSC, will speak.
Greetings and happy holidays, White Bear Unitarian Universalist congregation. My name is Mary Catherine Morin. I'm the president of our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. And I'm so grateful that my dear friend Roger invited me to record a greeting to be part of your Guest at Your Table program this year. White Bear is precious to UUSC. For many years now, White Bear has been a leading congregation in contributing to our Guest at Your Table program. We are grateful to all of you for this, and especially to Judy and Dick Ottman and their daughter Gerda for their leadership and inspiration. I was so glad to get to meet some of you almost 3 years ago now when I came for a visit. I know there's been a lot of transition for you, even on top of the transitions caused by the global pandemic. I'm glad to see that you have the gift of ministry with Roger. He is so gifted and respected universally by his colleagues. I am sending all my very best to you during this important time of interim ministry. The theme for this year's Guest at Your Table program is Now is the Time for Courageous Change. It's always the time, of course, but these days and weeks and months are rife with opportunity for meaningful change that brings more justice to our world. We need to look no further than UUSC's wonderful guests for this year, Myra, Axel, Christian, and Mena. I hope you've had a chance or will take the time to read their stories. As you know, these are just 4 of the scores of grassroots partners UUSC is blessed to work with as we strive to advance human rights around the world. Your support makes all of this possible. Thank you. Please stay in touch. We love to hear your questions, your concerns, and also stories about your own local work to advance justice and human rights. Together, hand in hand, we can build a better world. Thank you for being such wonderful partners.
When it's late December, dark and cold, where is the light? When old man you are spending low, where is the light? When the sun runs off a bit too soon, where is the light? And there's nothing but a skinny moon, where is the light? Can you tell me where is the light? Where is the light? Where is the light? Oh, the light's inside of me. When it's dark each morning when I rise, where is the light? And it's dark when my eggs are frying, where is the light? And it's dark when off to work I go, where is the light? And it's dark again when I get home, where is the light? Can you tell me where is the light? Where is the light? Where is the light? Oh, the light's inside of me. It's in my skin and in my bones, in my heart and in my soul. That light of life so bright and golden, like a summer day. When the sun goes missing in the sky, it is rising in my eyes, chasing all that winter gloom away. I'm burning bright like kerosene. Where is the light? I'm twinkling like the Pleiades. Where is the light? I'm dancing like a candle flame. Where is the light? And I'm flaming like a fruit flambe. Where is the light? Can you tell me where is the light? Can you tell me where is the light? Can you tell me where is the light? Oh, the light's inside of me. Can you tell me where is the light? Can you tell me where is the light? Can you tell me where is the light? Oh, the light's inside of me. 2, 3, 4. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it
Our first reading this morning is Robert Frost's poem, Dust of Snow. The way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I rued. The second reading is Bathing in Starlight by Reverend Kathleen Mctigue. And then I finally stood still, washed in starlight that had been traveling toward me for millions of years. I was brought to my senses and very nearly brought to my knees. We live immersed in that eternity after all we just forget until something like starlight wakes us up to it again. And the final reading is an entry from John Coing's Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, a book that sets out to create new words that will fill the gaps in our language of emotion. The word is sonder. The realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as our own, populated with their own ambitions, friends, routines, worries, and inherited craziness. An epic story that continues invisibly around you like an anthill sprawling deep underground, with elaborate passageways to thousands of other lives that you'll never know existed, in which you might appear only once as an extra sipping coffee in the background, as a blur of traffic passing on the highway, as a lighted window at dusk.
I can't stop thinking that in this time of dwindling sunlight, it's so much easier to notice the lights that are present. The holiday lights on trees, the cheap plastic light-up Santas, the stars on a clear night, or the full moon that began last night. The full moon that happens in December is known by many names: the frost moon, the cold moon, the winter moon, the oak moon, and the long night moon. Thanks to NASA, I learned that this full moon that happens nearest to the winter solstice is special. The sun is moving on a path that is nearest to the Earth's horizon, hence giving us only about 9 hours of daylight. And while the sun is moving on that low path, the moon is actually moving on a path that is furthest from the horizon. That means that the moon actually stays in the sky for more than 15 hours, and 14 of those are when the sun is down, making it the longest full moon of the year. What a perfectly incredible time to have the longest full moon of the year. Now, I don't know about you, but I have all types of rituals and practices that help me winter well. There are some of the obvious holiday-related ones: putting up lights, exchanging gifts, comfort food, gathering with friends and family. But there are also less common ones: flying under the radar, cross-country skiing for me, long bundled up walks in the snow, jigsaw puzzles. Of course, these activities can be done in groups or with close companions, but they also can be done absolutely alone. I often forget how satisfying solitude can be. I spoke with a college chaplain once that told me that her number one piece of advice to all incoming students was to take themselves out on a date. She told me that most of them struggle to find themselves interesting enough for one night. And she says, "You are literally the stuff of stars. I think you'll be fine." Which brings me to this glorious reading from Kathleen Mctigue. "And then I finally stood still, washed in starlight that had been traveling toward me for millions of years. I was brought to my senses and very nearly brought to my knees. We live immersed in that eternity. After all, we just forget until something like starlight wakes us up to it again." I feel like the lesson I'm learning every winter is that winter is not just a time to celebrate the blinking holiday lights and the twinkling stars. It's also a time to celebrate the deep cave of darkness that becomes a fertile ground for love and self-acceptance. The permission to go slowly. The letting go of energetic ambitions and submitting to the season of hibernation and growth. And sometimes that growth moves very slowly and doesn't need any assistance. Case in point, bulbous plants. I'm not sure when I first figured out how much joy these plants bring me, but now that I know, I presume I'll be a lifelong fan. Your mileage might vary, but for me, the charm of the amaryllis bulb and the paperwhite flowers is that they genuinely surprise me when they bloom. Now, I'm letting you in on a little secret about myself, which is that I don't actually notice plants very often. I mean, I am aware that there are 6 trees here on the pulpit, but I guess I just focus more on people and ideas than plants. So don't get me wrong, I don't want everyone to be like me. The world's plants would die from neglect, and it would be a less beautiful place. No thank you. But what this does mean for me is that when I put a bulbous plant somewhere in my house, in the environment it needs, and water it usually once, I forget about it. And then about 4 weeks later, the stalk is like 11 inches tall, and maybe a full bud or even blossom is sitting there waiting for me to enjoy. Fortunately, these plants grow without much help from me. It's kind of like buying, unwrapping, and then hiding a gift for yourself that then unwraps and presents itself to you when you just least expect it. And in this moment, I think that might be exactly what we need. A colleague of mine, Carol Thomas Sissel, recently wrote a blog post where she encouraged us and even invited us all to accept joy no matter when it comes. She said, "After 20-plus months of relentless pandemic uncertainty, this month when joy slips in, please invite her to stay a while." This sounds wise. I actually know this practice, and I've been employing it. This year, I actually did plant a few of these bulbous plants right in my house in various planters, and I've actually been attending to them more than usual years. This year, I actually noticed the first day that one of the paperwhites had bloomed. I find it to be so gorgeous, and I think that half of my joy comes from the waiting. What are the things that help you winter? The things that bring you joy, or the things that give you pause? For Robert Frost, it was a dust of snow. The way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree, has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. You see, every part of me wants to think here that Frost is exaggerating. A simple dusting of snow couldn't possibly save a day that he was fretting about or regretting. But I don't think that he is exaggerating. I've actually experienced this. On a winter walk or during a pause from my skiing as I'm catching my breath, I watch the fattest and happiest snowflake just dance back and forth as it wafts down to add itself to the blanket of snow already there in the ground. I mean, it's no coincidence that the land of Narnia is covered in snow, right? There's just something about being outside and active while the earth is still asleep and animals are in hibernation. So peaceful, so quiet. But that's the thing, it's not just quiet and still. There's actually a whole network of critters surviving and moving through tunnels under the snow. I've learned about this recently. It's called the subnivean zone, and it's fascinating. Little moles and voles build an elaborate set of highways and byways underneath the blanket of snow. Even if the air temperature is 0, their subnivean climate is always right around 32 degrees. And for me, it all reminds me of this quote by a UU theologian named Bernard Loomer. He is a pantheist who equates God to nature and nature to God. He describes God as the organic restlessness of the whole body of creation. The organic restlessness of the whole body of creation. What a layered picture that paints. I just love to meditate on this tension. From my perspective, sometimes, as the main character in the movie that is my life, the snow is a frozen and pristine surface that I walk on or ski across. But in a different movie, a movie from the perspective of those critters, the snow is their ceiling. They are busy at work, foraging and cuddling for warmth. The skier that passes over them only factors into about 2 seconds of their movie, probably a terrifying 2 seconds since they're underneath a giant, but then they move on with the rest of their movie. And this is where I come to that term, sonder. This awareness that everyone has a story, that all the random passersby you see around you have an emotional life just as rich as yours, even though to you, they're just an extra in the background. As you heard earlier from Sarah, this word comes from the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, a blog post turned into a book by John Koenig, a graduate of Macalester College. Back in 2012, he was a poetry student who wanted to create new words. He wanted these new words to form some profound existential realities that didn't yet have terms. He found words that had real connections to prefixes, roots, and suffixes in multiple languages. So, for example, sonder already existed in 2 different languages, and he combined the meanings to create this definition. So in German, it's actually an adjective that means special, and in French, it is a verb that means to plumb, as in to plumb the depths. You won't find the word sonder in Webster's dictionary or in the Oxford English Dictionary yet. And if you try to use it, you might get into an argument with a word nerd. But for me, that is an argument worth having, because what a beautiful concept, right? The idea that I might be an extra in someone else's movie is a radical one that goes against our cultural impulse to see ourselves as the star of all of the moments we touch. As we're learning, it's a great practice to decenter yourself and realize that you are also a small player in other people's stories. I think about this same practice of decentering when I think about the story that Nico shared with us. They told us in their story that when the sun goes away from here and gives us the opportunity to winter, it goes south so that others can summer. While we're experiencing the winter sun, people in the south are experiencing the summer sun. Just like the full moon, while we're experiencing the sun's lowest orbit, we're also experiencing the moon's highest. And just like Nico told us that the sun goes away, but it will return, life itself goes away, but it will return. What a beautiful exchange of light, of time, of energy. How can we reframe this absence as a blessing for someone else? Or is it possible to notice this absence and then cherish the fondness that blossoms forth? I recently encountered a quote from Khalil Gibran, which I needed to hear because it was about singing. Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. We were in the midst of humming, not singing, our hymns here at church, and it didn't just quite feel as satisfying as I wanted. I wrote a note to myself that said, just think about how much sweeter it's going to be when we can sing together. And isn't that true? I have one final story and thought for you, and it kind of ties all these themes together. It involves singing and slowing down. It involves being an extra in someone else's story. And it brought me incredible joy and a little embarrassment. It happened 2 days ago while I was running an errand in downtown Minneapolis, which is a place where I often experience Sonder. I'd parked in a 30-minute zone, and I was in a bit of a hurry. I was walking through the Skyway, which are basically, if you think about it, tunnels in the sky. I don't really get those. I passed a group of young people gathered around a piano, singing some kind of vocal warm-up. They were at Dayton's. It wasn't terribly interesting, and I was late, so I soldiered on. I ran my errand, and I was trying my best to wind my way back to my car without getting lost more than twice in the sky tunnels. I diverted from my return path to find a restroom, and I'm so glad that I did, because when I got back to the main path, I was right next to this small horde of teenage carolers. And they had just started singing my absolute favorite Christmas song, Mariah Carey's 1994, All I Want for Christmas Is You. A song written before any of them were born. The soloist in the front was holding her phone to keep an eye on the lyrics. She didn't know them by heart like I do. The oohs and the ahs behind her were snapping and swaying back and forth, and they were either having a ton of fun or very good at pretending to have fun. Just so much joy and holiday cheer. And then I finally stood still, washed in music that had been traveling toward me for millions of years. I was brought to my senses and very nearly brought to my knees. I stopped and watched. My mind flashed through the past 2 years, the challenges, all the reports I've read about the pandemic's effect on us, on children and youth, on students and teachers, the fights and debates, the polarizing effects of our politics and our media. And then I just looked at all of their faces, well, the parts of their faces above their masks that I could see. And the soloist's face, it was just pure joy. I have no idea where it came from, but a tear fell on my cheek. I felt a slight twinge of embarrassment and went through this litany of lies in order to push the feeling away, to stuff it back down. It's not Christmas yet, put that joy away. This song isn't even particularly holy or spiritual or deep. I probably shouldn't cry in public while alone with 20 strangers listening to 20 other strangers singing Mariah Carey. But then I relaxed. I breathed. I remembered my colleague's words, and I just pushed right past all those feelings and lies. I simply accepted the unabashed joy that was there waiting for me. I haven't been around much communal singing lately, and especially not around strangers singing, and especially not this joyfully. And there is just nothing wrong with accepting those tears of joys whenever they come and from wherever they come. Personally, I rarely know they're going to come, and they often surprise me. We live immersed in that eternity. After all, we just forget until something like Starlight wakes us up to it again. Or an Amaryllis, or Paper Whites, or Teenage Carolers. And this was my December moment, my moment of slowing down and finding stillness and joy amidst the buzziness, encountering the organic restlessness of the whole body of creation at Dayton's. My hope today is that we all find God, or whatever term we use to refer to that restless and mysterious concept, in unexpected places. Please rise in body or spirit and join us for a hymn, Solstice Song.
In the darkest night of solstice time, when the chill of winter creeps within, our beings long for friendly light, our hearts hold hope of spring. Sunlight, moonlight, starlight, clear light, fill our minds with purest light this dark and wintry night. Sunlight, moonlight, starlight, love light, fill our hearts with radiant light this dark and wintry night. As our earth in circling orbit moves, turning moon's glow into sun-filled day, may our pole star be the light of truth to guide us on our way. Sunlight, moonlight, starlight, clear light, fill our minds with purest light this dark and wintry night. Sunlight, moonlight, starlight, love light, fill our hearts with radiant light this dark and wintry night.
Please join me in the closing words. May peace dwell within our hearts and understanding in our minds. May courage steel our will and love of truth forever guide us.
Take some time this week, this month, this season for stillness amidst the restlessness. May you journey well and winter well. May you stumble into the moments of eternity that hold wonder and curiosity and unabashed tears of joy. Go in peace and go in wonder. Our final hymn is going to be Deck the Halls. We will be singing it quietly as we leave this space to ready ourselves for an outdoor postlude treat. Today is the day that we will be singing the 12 Days of Christmas together, and we're doing it out in our parking lot. So if you're here in the building, please sing your way out, grab your coat, and we'll meet you outside. For those of you on Zoom, we're going to ask you to move over to the Cyber Social Hour link after Deck the Halls is done. You can find that link in the chat box, and that is the place where you'll be able to witness the magic and the mystery that is our annual tradition of raucously and joyfully singing the 12 Days of Christmas. Please join us.
hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 11th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 11 ladies dancing, 10 pipers piping, 9 drummers strumming, 8 maids of
Do you want to come help one of the kids?
On the 5th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 1 golden rings, 4 rolling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 6th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4 lovebirds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 7th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 8th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 8 maids a milking, 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 9th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me 9 drummers drumming, 8 maids a milking, 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 10th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 10 pipers piping, 9 drummers drumming, 8 maids a milking, 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 11th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 11 ladies dancing, 10 pipers piping, 9 drummers drumming, 8 maids a milking, 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On Christmas, my true love said to me 12 fiddlers fiddling, 9 ladies dancing, 10 pipers piping, 9 drummers drumming, 8 maids a milking, 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree.